I know. Right, so basically you're saying you're going to be away from after Yom Kippur all the way through till coming back.
2 days after
Torah, and you're going to be away also for all of from Yom Kippur
till all the way through Sukkot.
all the way through Sukkot.
Till after.
Okay.
But he's flying.
No, I understand that.
So his arms will be very tired.
Well, so we'll give him a skinny Gemara. Okay, no, all right. It's good, important to keep that in mind because also I'll be away. Well, I happen to have this. Why go out?
I never use it.
It's the same Gemara in Aramaic, you know.
That is true. Eddie, are you going there yourself?
Not till the end of October. We're going.
How long are you going to be gone?
In Israel. This trip will be about 2 weeks. We're leaving Karen's mother's yahrzeit.
Okay.
Is
and I'm going to have to cover.
Well, somebody is. Okay.
What if I say no?
Then Reuven's got to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, oh yeah, so that's we're gone about 2 weeks. We're leaving the end of October, and we'll be back the middle of November. So turns out all her siblings are going to be in Israel.
Oh, how nice.
At the same time, because some have had new babies and some other things.
Yeah, that's always.
So they're all going to be there for the first yahrzeit.
Right.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. So one of the
like them all?
All what? The babies?
All the relatives.
Get along with them. Got interest. Okay, we've got from the Haredi
to the fry.
Well, no, we got everybody is from. Everybody is from.
Well, see, in my family, it's different. I like all of them. They don't
like me. That's the issue. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to start our learning sponsors. Friends of Nina Monesta, Nechama Asna Bad Yitzchak Aaron. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Ezechah Nishmat Simcha Melech Mameir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha, Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Issa. Month of Learning with Mark Linder, in memory of his mother Yonah Bat Zalman Leib. Rabbi Isaac Schmerler, in memory of his wife Menyasima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Friends of Marilyn Schmerler, in her memory Menyasima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Gary and Marsha Schrager, in memory of his father David Ben Yosef and his mother Freda Bas Hendel. Marsha Federbush, in memory of her husband Oriel Pinchas Ben Arav Shimon. A week of learning by Shelley and Oscar Moll, in memory of her father Shlomo Reuben Ben Binyamin. And today is the 18th, right? And so we have a day of learning by Sandy and Jack Friedman, in memory of her mother Brendel Bas Elisha Michael, and by Miriam and Chazan Michael Schiffer, in memory of her mother Bluma Bat Zaev. Okay. Also, we are keeping in mind still Peretz Semach Ben Yaakov Yitzchak for Shlema, and the Bachor Moshe Ruvain Ben Sima Tebela for Shlema. And Shemas having Aliyah, Crank Rafir Velti Yeshua Shema Tzliya, Lechol B'nai Israel Good Gaben Shia.
Amen.
Okay. The okay, so everybody should have access now that are here to a volume, if you're using Art Scroll, a volume 2. Okay, if you're using Koren, okay, that's, I believe that we are still in volume 1. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. Okay, everybody should have, right? Okay. So
Unless I'm mistaken.
okay, right. But as we usually do, says the Gemara, right? We were dealing with, we had some interesting questions. I want to pick up back with Zev's question from yesterday and we use that as the introduction to the new parak. and pick up on that as well. Okay, and we welcome some new participants. Okay, and welcome back others. All right. So the Gemara says on the bottom there of 41 2b, whatever the number is there in our scroll, right? Right,
Bottom of 42.
right? Bottom there for
42, 2B2.
whatever it is. Damar bedin Rachmana Patri Mukta, right? Mi vayichash, we said, Ela ledidcho. So they're saying that Rabbi Shimon is answering according to the view of the rabbis. Odu li mihat hechadelo amad badin, but you must acknowledge where the person was not in a legal case, did not come to court. The chikatava, when it's demanded, kansa katava, that they are, right, he is demanding the cases for the knas. Okay, that's the point. Okay, and we sort of rolled over just a tiny bit to the top of Mem Gimel, today's daf, umode b'knas patur. And we said then that the one who acknowledges on his own, okay, that by his own admission, that person is exempt from paying the fine, right? V'rabanan savre, okay, top line of Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, ki katava, okay, but the rabbis were of the opinion that, right, when the person, okay, made their claim, their right, boshet upagam katava,
Even if he admitted all
that
this,
when he's admitted it on his own, nevertheless, it's the compensation that he's paying. That's the humiliation and the degradation. Okay, so that's really, so we're picking up there. Okay, the Gemara starts off with B'mayika miflage. Okay, so what are they arguing about? Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa. Rabbi Shimon Savar, he's of the opinion Rabbi Shimon, Lo Shavik Inish Midei Dekitz, okay, V'tava Midei Delokitz. Namely, Rabbi Shimon's of the opinion that a person is not going to, it's not going to put aside, give up, however we want to translate it, something that is fixed, namely the fine of the 50 shekels, okay, and make his claim against something that's not fixed, okay, which would be the boshus and the pagam, the compensation, okay, because it's clear the Torah fixed the fine, but the other has to be determined by the Beis Din, okay, that's the point. The Rabbanan Savre, but whereas the rabbis of the opinion, Lo Shavik Inish Midei Dechi Modei Bei, okay, that a person is not going to put aside or leave aside, however we want to translate that, okay, something where the individual has admitted, okay,
If he admits.
okay, so in other words, if he admits, okay, that he's not exempt, then he has to pay the compensation, right? Lo mifta, okay, and in that case, he's not exempted from that. V'tava midei techimode be mifta, and that when the case is claimed against him and he has admitted it on his own admission, he would be exempt from that, exempt from the fine. Okay, that's the point. Okay, so what happens? So that was Rav Papa's explanation. Okay, so by mine Rabbi Abina me Rav Sheshet. So Rav Abina asks Rav Sheshet now a somewhat different question, but it's going to be connected. Bas right hanizonit min ha'achim. We have a daughter who we have to assume the father passed away because she receives her sustenance from her brothers. Okay,
take it from the estate.
right, and how are they sustaining her? From their inheritance of the estate of the deceased father. Ma'aseya dehalami. Okay, her handiwork. In other words, if she brings in any funds, okay, to whom does that belong? Okay, and remember we said yesterday again that we're dealing with these financial issues because ultimately we're going to see there's going to be some connection with the ksuba, okay, as well. All right? So what happens? To who does it belong? Bimakom ha'av kaime, in a situation where the father is existent, whether he's around. Mahatam ma'aseya de la'av. Okay, certainly there. Okay, what handiwork she does belongs to the father. Hachanami, here too, maseya de la'achim. Here too, it would seem to imply that if she's being sustained by the estate, okay, through the help of the brothers, that any handiwork she does should go to the brothers. Idilma, O Dilma, or perhaps we're going to say the following: Lo dame la'av, that it's not similar to the situation of the father sustaining her. Hatam mididei mitzana. There, in that case, okay, from him, the father, she is being sustained. Hacha lav mididhu mitzana. But here, in this case, it is not from them, the brothers, that she's actually being sustained. It's from the estate, the Yerusha, in a sense. Amarle. So now what happens? Rav Sheshet responds, Tinituha, we've learned this from another example. Almana nizonet minichsei yatomim, that a widow is sustained by the property of the orphans. Okay? In other words, again, what their Yerusha is from their deceased father. Okay? Umaseh yadeha shelahen. Okay, and her, whatever handiwork she sews.
She makes money.
She makes money, whatever.
Makes a dress and they
No, but whatever income that she brings in,
Goes to them.
okay, goes to them. Midami. So the Gemara asks, here too, is this really an appropriate comparison between the almana situation and the bas situation? Okay. So the Gemara continues, Almanato lo nechale baharvacha. Regarding his widow, okay, would not be happy, the deceased would not be happy to see her living in comfort. Okay. Bito, okay, but regarding his daughter, nechale baharvacha. But here for his daughter, he would be satisfied or happy that she's living in comfort.
Are we saying that this woman is not the Soinim's mother?
Yeah, she is.
Then why wouldn't they take good care of her?
They would.
No, we're saying here there's a question.
Right.
The only question is, if she has a job, does she have to turn her paycheck over to the children? The theory being that if her husband were alive, she had a job, she has to turn her pay over to her husband. Here too, the theory is she's still getting money from the same source, which is her husband's estate. So she should turn her paycheck over to the husband's estate.
Question was not the unhappiness.
So then the happiness is he's no longer alive. The only reason he maintained her in the manner in which she became
Because he has a
is
chayim.
because he's getting benefits. Now he's not getting benefits. But with a daughter, if you ever had a daughter, nothing's too good for a daughter. So he would prefer the girl to keep her own money. It's just a psychological thing.
Okay. I would have phrased it a little bit differently, but Michael's explanation is fine. Okay. The other aspect I was going to say is, remember, regarding his wife, when she was alive, he also had a chiyuv. He had an obligation to provide her with certain things. He's not around anymore. Okay. So it's really is it really the obligation of the sons to take care of this widow? Okay, right? It's coming right from that. But clearly the sons do have an obligation to take care of a sister. There is, because elsewhere,
If it's their their mother who's
Well, from
involved.
Kibbudim, but she has an income from the Kasuba. Your chov to pay for your mother's support only exists if your mother has no funds of her own.
Right.
But here she does. She has her Kasuba, and that's a fixed amount that she's supposed to
To live
manage
on.
with.
And ideally, theoretically, depending on the situation, she's available for remarriage too. And then that husband would take on the chov. Okay. But elsewhere, if I remember correctly, the Gemara tells us that where there's a daughter and brothers, the preference is given to the daughter, even if the brothers have to go begging. Okay.
Until she marries.
Right. Okay. So we may come back to that issue. Okay. So the whole thinking of the Gemara is, how can you compare the situation of the widow to a situation of the daughter, which was what was attempted to do. Okay. So what happens? So therefore we're saying as follows: Lamemra, the bito adifa lami almanato. All right. Now, aren't we therefore saying that the daughter is preferred, her welfare is preferred over that of the widow, which in essence is part of your question, right? Okay. Va'amar Rabbi Abba Amar Rabbi Yossi. He says as follows: Asu almana eitzel habat kibat eitzel achim. They made the widow similar to the daughter, as the daughter was similar to brothers. And here we write, b'nachasin mu'atin, in a situation where there are limited funds, limited property. Okay, what's the situation? Mahabat eitzel achim. What is the status of the daughter with regards to the brothers? Habat nizonet va'achim yishalu al haptachim. That's exactly what I said. Okay, that what happens, that the daughter is sustained and the brothers have to go begging. That's the point. All right. Af. So likewise, says the Gemara now, af almana eitzel habat. So likewise, the widow, vis-a-vis the status of the daughter, almana nozenet v'habat tishael al hapatachim. And in that case, the widow would need to be sustained, and the daughter would have to go be the ones begging. So if that's the case, the Gemara is going to have a very valid question. Okay, isn't it embarrassing? We're going to see in a moment, right? Isn't it embarrassing for either one of those women, okay, to go begging, right? So the inyan ziluta, in regarding some degradation of having to beg, amanato adifale. Okay, then certainly in that case, it's more embarrassing for the older woman to have to go than it is for the younger woman, right? Adifale. Le'inyan harvacha. And in regards to the issue of living in comfort, bito adifale. In that situation, the daughter is preferred. Okay, let's go on now. What happened, however? Meitiv Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef isn't happy with that answer, okay, on the part of Rav Sheshet. And so he responds with citing a Braita in the following. Maaseh yadeha umetziata. We know that her handiwork and whatever she finds, afal pi shalo gavta, even though she hasn't acquired it yet. Okay, meit ha'av. Okay, and it's in the interim time before the father dies. Harei hein shel achin. Okay, they therefore belong to the brothers. Tama, the reason being the bechaye ha'av, because were it such in the time when the father was alive, Maaseh yadeha and her mitziata would go to the father. Ha, but here, lachar mitat ha'av la'atzma. Maybe here, after the death of the father, Rav Yosef is suggesting it should go to her directly. Okay. My love, b'ni zonet, But aren't we therefore not saying that we're talking about the fact that she's receiving sustenance from the Yerusha that the brothers, let's call that they administer for the moment. Okay? We'll use that term for the moment. Okay? Lo, no, says the Gemara. B'she'einani zonin. No, we're talking about a situation where she does not receive a stipend, so to speak, from the family estate, but she has her own source of income in that case. B'sheinan nizonate. If we're talking about her having her own source of income, okay, and she doesn't receive a stipend from the estate, Maila Memra, what then are you trying to tell us? Okay.
Nothing new about that.
Right? Afilu lemanda amar, yichol harav lomar laeved. Even if you want to say that a master is able to tell his servant, aseh imi ve'eni zancha, work for me, but I'm not providing you, okay, foodstuffs, let's say, whatever. Hani mili be'eved kanani. This is only feasible if we're talking about a Canaanite servant. Why? Because the Canaanite servant has the option to, right?
No.
Right,
He's simply property.
right, right. Delokativ be amcha. Why? Because it's not written with him in the Torah along with you.
Which
Okay.
is a Jewish.
Which is right, which implies that the Torah specifies that clearly if it's a Hebrew servant, he must benefit in certain ways as
even
with the
prior
master,
to the master.
right? As with the master. Okay. Aval Eved Ivri, but with a Hebrew servant, Dichtiv Be Imach, where it's written along with you, lo, that's not the case. Kol shekain bito, how much more so does that apply in regards to his daughter? So if you're going to have to treat your Hebrew servant on a certain level, okay, certainly you aren't going to treat your daughter that much better. That's the
How
point.
can you expect the Eved Kanani to work for him if he doesn't feed him?
He's a piece of
Is
property.
it property?
If you have a car, if you want the car to continue to operate, you do maintenance. If you don't have the money, you neglect the maintenance. The Eved Kanani is your property. Of course, it behooves you to sustain him so he'll be able to continue working. But just as you have a right to let your car go to, you can your slave too. He's no.
I'm not sure I would
than a chair or a horse.
It's a
I'm not-
menschlichkeit even to a.
I understand, but
I mean,
we're talking
There isn't
about someone that's it.
an argument on Maroyam whether you can say that.
Right. I think it's better. I think
If
it's,
it's a Jewish slave, you
Michael,
have to go without
Michael,
it.
I would phrase it differently. I think it's better to phrase it simply that we see that from the Torah, one is mandated to clearly to, with a chiyuv, to take care of their Hebrew servant.
Even before himself.
Okay? However, but with the Torah does not give the same
rule
mandate for
an
an
Kanani.
Eved Kanani. I think that's sufficient. That's enough of our what we need to understand, because the Gemara is citing part of the pasuk.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Don't
Okay.
we say that the Eved Kanani can even eat for Kohen's Truma?
Yeah.
So much
because
that
he's part of his household.
Right.
Not that he has a chashivas, it's part of it.
if he's part of the household, he doesn't have to feed him. That's
He does have to feed him. We're talking about someone who's totally destitute. And he has a choice. There's one little roll. Do I eat it? Do I give it to my kid to eat? Or do I give it to my slave to eat? If it's a Jewish slave, you have no choice. You have to give it to the Jewish slave. If it's an Eved Kanani, then you come before him. That's all we're talking about.
Okay, let's go on. Amar Rabba Bar Ula. Okay. Lo nitzracha ela laha'adafa. No, says Rabba Bar Ula. Aren't we not talking about a situation of surplus income? That's the key. Amar Rabba, says Rabba.
That's the girl earns more.
Right, that she earns more. Right? Amar Rava, says Rava, Gaver Rabba Karav Yosef, Lo Yada De'ika Hadafa. Are you saying then that such a great person as Rav Yosef is not going to be familiar with issues regarding surplus income? Ukamotiv Tiyuvta. Okay, and your answer then is a proof text, right? El Amar Rava Bar Yosef. But rather Rava Bar Yosef says, Matniten Gufa Kashyale. Our Mishnah itself was problematic for him. The Katani, because it teaches as follows: Maaseh yadeha u'matziata, afal pi shelo gavta. Okay, that her handiwork and what she finds, despite the fact that she hasn't accrued it, hasn't gained it.
Right.
Okay?
Collected.
Okay, so what happens? Metziata miman navi.
Gavi.
Okay, so what's the question here? What she finds. Okay, how then or on what basis is she going to gain it? Elalav, is it
Can you
not?
say she hasn't collected
right?
it yet if she just found it?
Well, we say, well, that depends. Okay, Elalav, is it not the following? Hachikama. This is what he means to say. Maaseh yadeha kemetziata. That money, that income that she might be making from her handwork, that income is similar to when she finds something. Ma metziata b'chayei ha'av la'av, the same way that what she finds during the lifetime of her father belongs to the father. La'achar mitat ha'av, after the death of the father, le'atzma, it belongs to her. Af ma'aseh yadeha, nami b'chayei ha'av la'av, la'achar mitat ha'av la'atzma. And likewise, her income, okay, during the life of the father belongs to the father. After the death of the father, goes to her. Okay, Shma mina, and that's what we learn. So what happens? Itmar nami, and about this the following was also said. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav. He's saying it in the name of Rav. Bat hanizonet min ha'achim, a daughter who is sustained by the brothers, in other words, through the Yerusha of the family. Ma'aseh yadeha la'atzma, that therefore the handiwork should go to her directly. Amar Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana says, Mai Tama. What's the reasoning? Dichtiv, why? Because it's written in a pasuk. Vehit nachaltem otam livnechem acharechem. Okay, implying that the estate, okay, the estate goes to they are the sons of the natural heirs to receive that. Okay, otam, when it says to them, livnechem, to the sons.
Otam livnechem, the servants, the slaves.
Also, it's talking about the servants.
Okay, in other words, regarding the slaves, the property. Okay, we're talking about slaves there. The property goes to these heirs, to these sons. Velo benotechem and livnechem. But the daughters, okay, don't go to the sons. In other words, their sister in this case, okay, all right, does not go to them, as opposed to the way the property, namely the slaves, would go to them as part of the estate. Okay, that's what it's saying. Magid she'ena damorish zechut bito libno. It comes to tell us that a man does not bequeath the value, I'm going to use the word there for zechut, okay, or the merit of his daughter to his son. Matkif la Rava. And Rava challenges this. Ve'ema, and I might say bepitui habat. Okay, what are we in regards to a situation of seduction of the daughter? Okay, v'knasot, and what about fines for any rape? Okay, v'chabalot, what about compensation for any injuries? Hakatuv medaber, isn't that what they're talking about? V'chein tana Rav Chanina, and that similarly it was taught by Rav Chanina. Pitui habat uknasot v'chabalot hakatuv medaber. Okay, that regarding the seduction of the daughter, or fines for rape, or injuries, the compensation, that's what the text is talking about. Chabalot sara de gufa ninhu. We're saying injuries, aren't those considered,
Her pain.
right, pain and suffering that affects her body, right? That's the case.
And therefore it goes to her.
That's why it goes to her. Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. And what is he saying as we go over now? Right? Okay. Shepatzah bifaneha. That what happened? That he injured her face, for example. Amar Rav Zera, says Rav Zera, Amar Rav Matana, Amar Rav.
The obvious diminution in value.
Well, we're going to get to that. We'll get to it. We'll get to it, Michael. Hold on. Va'amre la, and others say, Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Matana, Amar Rav, the name of Rav, Bat Hanizonet men ha'achin. Okay, with regards to a daughter who is sustained by the brothers. Ma'aseh yadeha la'atzma. We're saying that her handiwork, that income should go to her. Dichtiv. Why? Because the pasuk says, "V'hit nachaltem otam livnechem achrechem." Okay, again implying that the property, the slaves particularly, go to the heirs, who the sons. Otam livnechem. Okay, is saying to them, to the sons. V'lo b'notechem livnechem. And again, the daughters don't go to those sons. Magid she'ein adam morish zechut bito libno. Therefore, comes to tell us that the father does not bequeath the value, the merit of the daughter, of his daughter to his son. Okay.
B'nai means the Dafka sons. We say B'nai Israel. It doesn't mean just the men. It means a whole.
That's how the pasuk.
We know the laws of.
That's the pasuk. How the pasuk is darshan. That's all I can tell you.
Inheritance. Only
Okay.
Apply to the son, the may come to your children, the may come to
Right,
your
but
son.
that's how
the
they.
context is that when a man dies, his slaves are part of his estate. His estate passes to his children, his sons. Now, he may have daughters who generate income. So and until they're 12 and a half, the income goes to the father. So you might assume that if she's working from 11 to 12 and a half, that income goes to the estate. So this pasuk says only actual assets like slaves go to the son, but the potential value, that means her income or money she gets for getting
goes to
married,
her.
whatever, should go to the sons. It's part of the father's estate. This pasuk says no.
Okay, that's basically the drush. Okay, all right, let's go on. Amarle, excuse me. Amarle Avimi Bar Papi Shakud Amra says Avimi Bar Papa, the diligent one. Okay, so who's Shakud? Asks the Gemara. Shakud Mano. Who are you referring to when you call him the diligent one? Shmuel. It's Shmuel. Ha Rav Amra. But it was Rav who said it.
Quoted Rav.
Okay. Ema, I would say, Af Shakud Amra. Yes, even Shmuel, the diligent one, also said it. Amamar Barav Amemar Rav Ashi. And so Mar now turns to Rav Ashi, okay, and raises the following. Hachi Amre Nehardai. This is what they say in Nehardea. Hilchata Kivate de Rav Shesha. That the law is according to Rav Shesha.
That the boys do get her income.
Okay, that the boys should get. That was his view, right? As opposed to the other view that said that the income goes to her. Rav Ashi Amar Hilchata Kivate de Rav. Rav Ashi says, no, the law is actually according to Rav, and also I'm going to say Shmuel,
And not like Shmuel.
and not
and not like
Shmuel, and not like Shmuel, halacha karav.
Okay, and
Yeah,
that
but no, Shmuel agrees in this case.
Shmuel agreed with Rav in this case that the money would go to her. V'hilchata, and notice what happens here, by the way, that the hilchata kivate de Rav, and the law goes according to Rav. And this came up yesterday. Remember when we said that there are times when the Gemara actually gives us a psak right here. There are other times where we see that it's teku, okay, and
Or
therefore,
that they just fly back
okay, and
home.
that's where we need the Rishonim to come in and give some sort of a answer. Okay, we get to a new Mishnah. Okay, as we go on in a new Mishnah, okay, we're going to see that another example of a situation. I want us to be careful with a couple of things as I introduce the Mishnah. Number one, we need to be careful with the language of the Mishnah, because we're going to see it's going to make a difference between betrothal and marriage. Okay, that's the first thing we'll need to see. Okay, all right. Second thing is in terms of the age of the daughter here. Okay, so I pick up now with our new Mishnah. Hame'ares et bito. Okay, one who betroths his daughter. Remember, the oraita, the father has that, can do that. And we're talking about a daughter who is either a katana or a na'ara. One of those two. Okay? What happens? Vigersha. And she becomes divorced from the betrothal. Okay? What happens then? The same girl. All right? And I have to include that here because the Gemara doesn't use that word, but I want us to follow it. The same girl then, Irsa, becomes betrothed again, Vinit Armala, and this time becomes widowed.
She's still a kid.
Okay? What happens? Ketubata Shelo. The ketubah belongs to the father. Okay? Now,
Both
okay? Well, let's call it, you're right, but I want to call it the first ketubah from the divorce, the second ketubah from the widowhood. Okay? So she has two ketubahs, one from divorce, one from widowhood. Both go to the old man. Okay. Second scenario in our Mishnah. Hisia v'gersha. She marries, okay, and is divorced. Okay, same woman. Hisia v'nit armala. She marries and becomes widowed. Okay, ketubata shela. Okay, both first ketubah from the divorce, second ketubah from the widowhood, both of them go to her.
We learned that before. Once she's married, everything is hers.
Oh, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see, Zev. Let's clarify that you're right, but we want to see it inside the Gemara. Okay? Because the Gemara is going to have a question. What is the difference between the betrothal and the marriage?
Also, the Gemara is going to say we learned this already. Let's see.
Okay, so we'll see.
But the first time she's married, everything is on her own. She's
All right, well, we'll see.
That's after Nisuyin. That's not after Eris.
Right?
After
Right, after
Eris.
Okay, okay, guys,
once she was
let's
married,
not get ahead of the Gemara. Okay, all right. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, Harishona Shel Av, the fact that in the first case, it belongs to what goes to the father. Amrulo, and they said to him, Mishehisiya ein la'avia reshut ba. Once she's married, okay,
she has no jurisdiction over
okay,
her.
the father no longer has authority over her. Okay, all right. So in other words, the end of the Mishnah clearly clarifies there is a difference between Erusin and Nisuin. Okay, that was why I wanted to bring it up step by step. Now we go on. Tama, the reason that the Gemara wants to clarify this distinction made at the end of the Mishnah. Dehisia vegersha, that she was married and then became divorced. Hisia venit armala, she was married and she became widowed. Okay? Aval, but nit armala tre zamne, if she became widowed 2 times, right? 2 lo chazia leinsube, then we're going to say that she may not be suitable for further marriage. Why? Because there might be a.
Well, we're going to say why, right?
I know. We're going to see why. That's putting it mildly. Okay. Va'agav orche. And by the way, the Gemara is telling us, kasatim lan tana kerebi. At the same time, this particular Tana is teaching us something according to the view of Rebbe, namely, the Amar betray zimne havye chazaka, that when there are 2 occasions, okay, this establishes a set precedent.
And she's a husband killer.
Might be considered a katlanit. All right, that's the case.
Don't we really hold 3?
No,
That's the machloket.
Oh.
There's a machloket
Because
there.
I married someone the second time who was her husband died twice, and I married her the third
Her
time.
husband died twice.
Her husband died twice. Wow.
There was that.
They
He had
write it
some
out.
previous husbands who died.
She had 2. So the point is, here she's an 11-year-old.
Uh-huh.
She gets married, he dies. She's 11 and a half, she gets married, he dies. If you the halacha is different if you marry a man when you're 20 and he dies when you're 6.
Well, he wasn't. Oh, God.
And then you marry another one and he dies when you're 80.
That's not the case.
Here, he died in the course of natural events. He was an old man. But here we're talking about a younger man, or at least an old man who died very happy.
All right. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Harishona Shel Av. Coming back to our Mishnah.
That he still wants to give the first ksuba to the father.
Right. My Tama the Rabbi Yehuda, what's his reasoning? Rabba v'Rav Yosef to Amrei Travaihu, that the 2 of them say, excuse me, Ho'ilu misha'at erusin zacha behen ha'av, since it's from the fact that from the time of the betrothal, the father is going to merit whatever money would be coming in. Okay, that's the case.
And the ksuba is
Right now, ksuba may not be paid till later, but it's as if he's zoche, he merits it from the time of the betrothal.
Because the Gemara is assuming that the ksuba is written at the time of Nisuyim, but nonetheless, a payment is whole at the time of Erusin. So the Gemara is not.
We'll see.
The difference between Rabbi Yehuda and
We'll see.
Chachamim.
Let's go on.
Who
We'll
does
see.
that money?
Rabbi
really
Yehuda
belong
Omer, this is Rabbi Yosha. Harishona shel Av, umode Rabbi Yehuda, b'ma'ares et bito, k'shehi ktana, excuse me, ubagra, v'achar kach niset, she'en lahavia reshut ba. Okay, so we're saying Rabbi Yehuda is willing to say, initially, all right, regarding the first situation regarding the father, and Rabbi Yehuda acknowledges that with betrothal of the daughter when she's a minor, and then later she matures, and afterwards, right? Afterwards, she's married, that then the father does not have authority regarding her.
Because even if she never married,
why is that the case? Right? Hachanami here too. Lema ho'il umishaat erusin zacha behen ha'av. But shouldn't we therefore say that at the point, right, of the erusin, that the father already has a zechus, has the option of getting the money. Ela ia itmar hachi itmar. But if it was said, this is what was said. Rava v'Rav Yosef de Amrei Travaihu, that the 2 of them said as follows: Ho'il ubirishuto nichtavin since it was such that it was written during the time that she was still in his authority. Okay? Migba me'emat gabia. And as far as the collection of the ketubah, when does it occur? Okay? Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, mana, matayim, whether it's 100 or it's 200. Min ha'erusin, if it's done from the time of betrothal, v'tosefet min ha'nisuin, and it's simply the other is added on at the time of the marriage. V'Rav Asi Amar, says Rav Asi, echad zeh ve'echad zeh min ha'nisuin, whether it's this amount or this amount, okay, it's from
Only written by the
a time at the actual marriage. Umi amar Rav Huna hachi, and did Rav Huna actually say this? Vaha itmar. Okay, but wasn't it said about the following? There was an incident, okay, as follows. Hotzia alav shtei ketubot. A woman once presented two different ketubas. Echat shomatayim, one had the amount of 200. The echat shel shalosh meot, and one had the amount written in it of 300. Va'amar Rav Huna, and Rav Huna's response was, Ba'ata legabot matayim. Okay, you came to collect 200. Gova mizman rishon. She can collect from the earlier time.
Why are there two Kesubas?
Well,
he likes her.
okay,
So he says, you know what?
well, that's one option.
That's one option.
Okay, one option, or we could base it on the examples we saw. Okay, that maybe she was married to two different men.
No,
Okay.
here
No.
this is, no.
Okay.
Here, no,
How could
that,
how could
here we're
she be
talking
married to
about
two
that
different
the
men?
husband.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm
gave
good.
her two
Well, I
seats.
understand that. I
We
want,
need to
but you're
continue.
jumping ahead in the Gemara. I don't want to jump ahead yet. I'm saying we could have thought it was two different men because that's what the Gemara was talking about previously. Gemara is going to tell us, no, that's not the case. It's not the case. The case is with a single husband. And why? Because maybe the husband committed a certain amount at the betrothal and then added to that a different amount later at the marriage. Okay, all right,
And
we're
then-
almost done. Okay,
is
so
it-
what happens?
Is it an extension or is it
Okay.
two separate documents?
Right, so we're going to see now what happens. So he said from the first time, okay, right? Rav Huna be'echad legabot matayim, gova mizman rishon. That you would collect from the first time. Shalosh me'od, gova mizman sheni, 300 from the second time. Maybe this is what she thought. Ve'im ita, if that's the case, tigbe matayim mizman rishon. Okay, you should collect 200 from the first time. Umeya mizman sheni, and you collect only 100 from the second one. Ulata'amech, and according to what you were thinking, your line of reasoning, tigbei chamesh me'ot kulam. Maybe you thought you'd be able to collect 500, okay? Namely 200 from the first, 300 from the second, you'd get 500. Matayim mizman rishon, utlat meya mizman sheni. 200 from the first and 300 from the second. Ella, rather, chamesh me'ot ma'itama lo gabeya. 500, what's the reasoning she doesn't collect? Right? Kevan de lo katavla. Why? Because he did not write the following. Siviti v'osifet lach tlat mea amatayim. Because I choose and I add 300 on top of the 200. Hachika amarla. This is what we say to her. Im izman rishon gavia. If it's from the first time that you collected money, gavia matayim, you collect 200. Im izman sheni gavia. If it's from the second time you're collecting, gavi tlat me'ah.
All you present is the
Right.
300, that's what.
Then that what second time, that's what you would collect would be simply the 300. Okay, and we'll stop there and we'll pick up tomorrow on the top of Mem Daled. Achenami Hainu Tama Deloga Vietz.
Welcome. What's your name?
Bienenstock, Mordechai.
Bienenstock?
Mordechai.
You know you said his cousin. David is your
Yes,
cousin.
yes, my cousin.
Welcome. You're now a permanent resident?
No.
Oh, okay.